Welcome, friends, to episode 15 of the Die, Laugh, Love podcast. I want to thank you for taking some time out of your day to sit with us. When anybody joins this event, it's always a contribution of your energy to the collective. So you're coming here, you might not get a reading, you might get a reading, you might find connection here, but you are bringing your energy to this event in a way that helps the entire group of people here. This is episode 15. I'm back on using Zoom. Last episode, I tried this service called Riverside, which was hellacious. It was an alternative to Zoom. It wasn't great. I had massive technical difficulties with it. So I'm back on using Zoom. Thank you for everybody for being here. And if you were there on the last episode, thank you for the patience as I had to deal with kicking everybody off of that service and starting another Zoom episode. It was a lot of fun, but we have to roll with the punches. And I think rolling with the punches is going to be a little bit of what we're talking about today. I want to remind everybody that it's always my intention when I host these events that I want to bring everybody love, connection to spirit, clarity in their life. I ask everybody to lower their expectations, bring a high sense of humor. And every time I sit in this capacity, when I sit with spirit, it's always my intention to hunt the bullshit. And that's the best way that I can put it. To sit with spirit in a collaborative way, to look at any of the sorrow, pain, heartache that you might have in your heart, might have in your life, to lend you clarity, and also in a way to lend everybody who might be here collectively a way to relate to it and take those lessons and wisdom passed on and apply it to your own life. The way these galleries work is I'm going to start by channeling a particular spirit, and that spirit has been with me since this morning, and I want to talk to you about who they are, who you might be. And remember that this is collaborative in a way that if you feel this is connected to you in any way, if you don't have your video on, please put your video on. If you are muted, unmute yourself. You're going to help me figure out what they're trying to say to you and to us all. A couple of things before I jump in. I want to tell everybody that I'm not doing these every Sunday anymore. I'm going to alternate, do one on Sunday, and then I'm going to do one on Wednesday night because I realize not everybody has Sunday off, and vice versa. So the next event, the next online gallery will be March 26th, Wednesday night at 7 p.m. And I'm going to alternate between Wednesday and Sunday and Wednesday and Sunday. So these are going to be about 10 days apart. I also want to let people know that I just announced my new book, and the book is coming out on May 22nd. So the name of the book is The Secret to Life Ain't That Secret. And it is the first in a series of books that I'm calling Down to Earth Spirituality. This is number one, and I have other books planned in the series. And the reason why I call it Down to Earth Spirituality is because I have been in this industry and in this world a little while. And there's a lot of woo, there's a lot of folks that are out in left field. There's the topics of enlightenment and all sorts of things. And I want to make spirituality and the spiritual life more down to earth, more accessible. Okay. That's on my website, but I am releasing it and having a signing party May 22nd at our space in Littleton, New Hampshire. We are hosting over the course of this summer 4 goblin markets. We call them goblin markets, but I want you to think of them as witchy farmers markets. They're artists, we have live music, we have face painting, aura photography, we have readers and psychics, and it's a big event. We're going to have the first one Sunday, May 22nd. If you can make it, you should try to make it. It's going to be quite the event. So, with that being said, let me have a sip of my tea. And let's talk about rolling with the punches. Okay. I've noticed that spirit will oftentimes find this relationship with me as a way to come through and apologize. Okay. So when I started to just think about the session today, when I started to go, okay, I've got the session here, gonna jump in. I saw a rocking horse, a rocking horse. And there was a connection here um, with this rocking horse and the person and the spirit about this rocking horse. So the first person that I want to get connected to today, I want to talk to somebody who might have had a rocking horse as a child. Okay. A rocking horse is a very specific thing. Rocking horse, you sit on a rocking horse back and forth. Rocking horse as a child. And I also want to talk to somebody who might have wanted to have been a doctor when they were a little kid. So here's the funny thing. What I get from this person and why they want to come forth and apologize is this. I believe that as a child, you had wanted to be something, I'm going to use air quotes here, outlandish, something that was pretty exceptional. And now we all kind of know about being a doctor, lots of college, expensive schooling, a pretty noble profession, in fact. But I get the impression that you were told that you couldn't be one, that you couldn't be one by this person in your life. So I'm going to first ask here, anybody have a rocking horse as a child? And anybody want to be something magnificent and expensive? What I'm hearing from the spirit is you might have been kind of poor, because the reason why this person's coming forth is there's this idea that you couldn't be a, how do I say, you couldn't be a doctor, not because you didn't have the abilities or the smarts, but because I don't think your family had the money to support you. So we're gonna lean into that a little bit. Anybody here have horses, rocking horse as a child? Anybody want to be something magnificent as a kid? And the funny thing is what I'm seeing is like a soap opera. I don't know if as a child you might have watched a soap opera and seen like a doctor on TV, wanted to have been a doctor, and then you were told that you couldn't be that thing. So, anybody here, can you unmute yourself? Anybody here wave and I can help you unmute? Is this anybody here? I don't see anybody waving their hands. Okay. You turned into somebody who would help people. You took that no, you couldn't be a thing, you couldn't be this thing, and you turned into you use that no, you can't do it to fuel the fire to make sure that you could do something that helped others. Who was told as a child that they couldn't be something by a significant somebody in their life? This might take a little while for you to think of your past. I see Deb waving her hand. Deb, I'm going to ask you to unmute yourself.
Okay.
There you are.
Okay.
Hi.
So, I was a child in the 50s and early 60s. So I do remember having like a kind of rocking horse, a spring rocking horse. I think all of us did. I know at one time I remember saying I wanted to be a nurse. And I just remember kind of being talked out of that by saying, "Oh, you have to sit in on operations and you've got to watch all that blood and all that stuff." And I've worked with children in early childhood for over 25 years. So I don't know.
Well, again, these are very specific parameters that I'm presenting. There's very specific parameters. So, child of the 50s, 60s, I didn't grow up, I'm a child of the 80s, 90s. I didn't grow up with rocking horses. Okay. So, a rocking horse is very specific. When I was posting this on my social media, I actually included a picture of a rocking horse. because the rocking horse was with me since this morning. So this is something that you would have had. Okay. Now, you were the best way I can say it is you were poo-pooed, like
Um,
poo-pooed, that you were
yeah,
told that you couldn't be a thing.
kind of told that probably wouldn't be something I'd want to do.
So not necessarily a doctor, but a nurse, a health
Yes,
provider. Okay.
yes, yes.
Okay. May I ask you, Deb, the idea that somebody could tell you no, you can't do a thing, is that what fueled you to instead do something? Because I get this impression that you became somebody who helped people. You said that you worked with childhood education.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. You worked in childhood education for 25 years. So you found your own way to heal. You found your own way to help. Okay.
Yep.
I want to talk to
Yeah.
you about what today is about. I want to talk to you about what this whole session is about, and this is why this spirit. And can I ask you, was this your mom? Did your mom say this to you?
Actually, it would have been my grandmother.
Your grandmother.
I,
Okay, so a
my
mother figure.
grandmother,
Yeah.
my grandmother raised me.
Okay, so a mother figure. Yes, mother figure.
Yeah.
Okay. An interesting thing when I say like shoestring budget or like you didn't have the money, I have to wonder how much she was kind of walking you out of it, thinking that she couldn't save for it, that she couldn't provide you for that type of schooling, that sort of thing. So
And that
here's
very
something that
well could be. Yeah, that very well could be. She was an elderly woman living on Social Security, raising her granddaughter.
got you. So she would have said, she would have walked you away from it or tried to talk you out of it because she didn't have the funds or the means to help you get there.
Hmm. And she never
Okay.
would have said that because in that period of time, people did not talk to their children about money, about what they had, what they didn't have, anything like that.
A lot of pride. Okay. Yeah, a lot of pride. I
Yeah,
get that.
yeah,
I get
and
absolutely get that.
the time period also, that was not for us kids to worry about. That was adult stuff.
May I ask too? Uh, I know that this is from your childhood. I know this is when you were growing up with her. I don't know if you can remember growing up with her in the home that you lived in. I want to ask you about the kitchen. Okay, the
Hmm.
kitchen, number one.
Hmm.
Uh, the window over the sink.
Yes.
Okay, what was in the windowsill?
Oh my goodness.
Were there plants?
There might have been. I don't remember. Stop.
Can I ask, did she keep a aloe plant?
Um, Not that I remember, but she was into natural remedies.
Okay, that's funny because
She
I'm seeing like herbs, like where you would keep herbs on like a windowsill of the kitchen. I'm seeing aloe plant. You know how like some people break open aloe, you
Right,
know,
right.
rub it on cuts or wounds in that way. I'm getting this impression of like herbalism, natural remedies in that way. Okay.
Yes,
You
yes,
are also
yes.
into those things. You would also be into those things,
Oh,
herbs,
definitely.
natural remedies, teas. Okay,
Definitely.
okay,
Yes.
okay. This woman, I also want to ask you, Deb, this woman, did she have a quiet spirituality, quiet sense of God,
Yes.
quiet sense, not like boisterous, not up on a soapbox, very quiet. Okay.
Yeah.
So I get a
She
very
she never
gracious
went
sense of
to church, but she was very, she believed. She was very, very quiet and
her.
most everything.
She wants to apologize for something, not from her necessarily, but interestingly, this apology of telling you that you couldn't be a thing, okay? This apology of telling you you couldn't be a thing. When people tell us those things, I think they can take a root deep within us in ways that we have to constantly work against. Okay.
Hmm.
But Here's an apology that she's offering because she's watched you walk through life, and she's sorry you've been so disappointed by the people around you. Here's something that you can't do. And this is something that's a big lesson for us all. Don't ever expect yourself out of other people. In the way that you give and you give and you give, and you hope that the people around you that you give to might return that love, might return that affection. She's saying it's not that you haven't had relationships or affection or friendships or what have you. She's talking to me about men. She's talking to me about men, okay? Like men might have been something that's disappointing in your life in the way that they might be just one dimensional, okay? Lack emotional intelligence, particularly in your life, okay? So that's something that's super important for you to remember in terms of just walking through life. Now, okay, so I get why this message is coming through. You would perhaps, or perhaps some of your identity could be built around how other people are interacting with you. So Graham telling you you couldn't be a thing, you shouldn't be a thing, you'd have to be in an operating room, you'd have to deal with blood. That's going to affect the way that you see yourself and get through life. Then when you step into relationships, you step into, giving of yourself to others, and they don't give back to you in the way that you give back to them. That can make you think particular things about yourself in your life. Okay.
Hmm. Yes.
Sorry that you've been disappointed, but you are not disappointing. Okay, that's a very powerful message. We're sorry that you've been disappointed, but you are not disappointing. And when somebody doesn't give you back the level of love that you're giving them, you can't let that be a reflection of your worth. And that's true for parents, that's true in relationships, that's true in friendships. A lot of people end up giving a lot of themselves more than they get back from others. And if you don't get back what you give, it's not because you're not worthy. Okay. That's super important for you to remember. Okay.
Okay.
All right. The reason why this is the reason why this is coming up, and I want to explain to folks here about a spiritual concept that I do really believe in and one that has helped me. Okay. I'm not sure if anybody here has ever heard the word alchemy or being an alchemist. So, alchemy, by definition, is the medieval practice, and this is kind of where we get our first occultists, our first chemists, the practice of trying to turn lead into gold. That's a medieval practice. There were men that were trying to take lead or a base metal and turn it into gold. Spiritual alchemy is taking the crap we're handed and transforming it and turning it into something better. What we can't do is using the crap we're handed as a way to prop ourselves up or prop up the harm that we do to others. There are a lot of people in this world who have not had a great life. There are people in this world who would take that less than savory life and use it as a way to justify their crappy behavior. Okay, like the victim mentality. I'm a victim. I'm going to turn everybody into a victim. Now, if you were raised by your grandmother, there's going to be some sort of sad story about not having those parents in your life. Okay, if you were raised by your grandmother, then you could have taken that story or that sadness that happened to you, and you could have turned into a tyrant or a monster or a narcissist, but you didn't. In that way, you're an alchemist. Okay, you've transformed the crap and turned it into gold. I think everybody here and everybody who might ever watch this can relate to being dealt an unfair hand. We're going to be dealt unfair hands in this life, but we cannot take those unfair hands and use them as justification to cause pain and further sow pain into the world. Okay, so I want to celebrate you for being an alchemist. You might not even know that. Okay, you might not even know that. But it's
I feel
important for you
very
to get the right.
fortunate that my grandmother raised me.
That's fantastic. And, that
Yes.
sense of gratitude. Okay, that sense
Yes.
of gratitude. The other part of this too, and I'm going to be interested in seeing where this goes, um, because I've got somebody else knocking on my door, and I'm going to be interested to see if they keep on with the same theme or what have you. Uh, I've learned, and this will not apply to every tragic situation that we've ever endured, but I've learned where I can take any story in my life where I would ever use the word victim, and if I can switch out the word victim for student, I get my power back. So here's something that I want everybody to see in this way. If you've ever been victimized in any story, in any relationship, and not every tragedy that ever befalls us is one that we could alchemize and turn into gold. But if you can somehow gain the higher perspective of going, it's not about what that situation or that person took from me, it's about what they gave me. And I've been able to do this with myself. I've been able to do this in several places in my life where I have had run ins with straight up evil people, horrendous people. And those people have given me so much because they taught me a lot. And if I can maintain that attitude of student versus victim, I get my power back. Any power that they would have ever taken from me, I get back. So I want to encourage you, Dad, to see that in your own way, perhaps you in this childhood with your grandmother, there would have been the ability for you to turn the word victim to whatever circumstance that was into a student. What did you learn? What did you get? It's not about what it took from you, it's about what it gave you. When we adopt that attitude and when we can see our stories through that lens, we get so much power back. We get so much power back. Okay, so thank you for being here. Now, stay with me, Deb, because I don't know if the spirit that's here now. Um, this is weird. This is strange. Okay, so this next one is strange. I have a oh boy, I don't know. Okay, I'm just gonna ask. Did anybody here was anybody here ever connected to an Elvis impersonator? Like an Elvis impersonator? Anybody here have a dad or somebody who really loved Elvis? Like really loved Elvis? Might have looked like Elvis with the slick back hair, things like that. I'm kind of seeing pants that were too tight. So I don't know if this person, anybody here have a connection to Elvis? This has happened to me one time before where I'd actually channeled Elvis Presley for somebody who was in love with him. Anybody here have a thing for Elvis? Now think about this. This guy's like dancing for me. And I think, like when Elvis was older, he got a little bit heavier, where his pants or his clothes were a little bit too tight. Okay. Anybody here have a thing for Elvis? Anybody here have somebody who would have been a little heavier, would have danced to Elvis? I'm seeing like almost like tight leather clothing, 50s rockers. I mean, like, that sort of 50s, 60s time. Okay. Help me out, people. Anybody here got a thing for Elvis? Stephanie, is it? Hold on, hold on, hold on. Um,
I'm gonna just unmute myself because my ex-boyfriend was crazy about Elvis. Went to see him all the way in, a concert far away. And he used to be a terrible dancer, my ex-boyfriend, but he used to dance like, the rock and roll, the 50s. Um, and he used to have Elvis on like constantly in the car, the Elvis Sirius satellite. But he wasn't heavy, my ex.
okay.
So it might not be him.
Well, no, 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 but you know how like Elvis was heavier towards the end?
Yeah, yeah.
Okay. Stephanie, I want to ask you the ex-boyfriend that you're talking about, and I know that we've connected before about this
Yeah.
person.
Yeah,
Okay.
exactly. Yeah.
I can't control what happens here, but I'm seeing
I
like
don't
the
know.
dancing Elvis. I'm seeing the dancing guy. Have you confirmed that this person's dead yet?
No, he's not, as far as I know, but he was in the area where they had those tornadoes and everything. So I have no clue. I know he's not good. I know he's not in a good
You
state.
know
I
he's
know
not
that.
good. Okay, this might be a case of dementia or
Yeah.
cognitive decline in a way that I can touch base with him. But here's
Yeah.
the interesting thing.
Mm,
Uh, Remember, like what we're talking about is alchemy here, transforming the
yeah.
stories, not
Yeah.
becoming the victim, becoming the student. Did you do
Hmm.
that with this person?
Yeah, he was a very negative guy. Always, when you always say people when they drain you, he was a person that could drain you. And he could never live up to what he wanted to live up to because he was put down as a child. He was abused. He came from Italy, a very poor town farmer, and his family never let him, accomplish what he could have done. They actually said, "Don't do it. Don't." Yeah.
Here's a funny thing that I have for you. I want to
Mhm.
ask you, do you have knickknacks of your mother's?
Oh, I have my grandmother's and my mother, everything. Yeah, but my mother's still
Porcelain?
what porcelain.
Porcelain?
I have a lot of ceramic stuff, a lot of porcelain,
Ceramic
ceramic,
stuff.
a
Okay.
lot from Italy.
From Italy. Okay. So
Yeah,
here's a message about some of the items in your home that you need to know.
right.
I need you to get into the idea of holding and feeling and touching.
Hmm.
Okay. And the reason being is that you it feels like you have holy items in your home that are
Yeah.
connected to, I don't know if they were actually blessed by
I have
holy people.
his. Yeah, I have his mother's rosary beads. Yeah,
Okay. So
yeah,
there is a holy item that you have. Okay. So don't get rid of
yeah,
it.
yeah.
Okay.
I
Don't get
don't.
rid of
No, I
it.
have it. I have them.
All right. The element of today's time together is figuring out how to turn victim into student, victim into student. You have been a victim, correct, Stephanie?
Yeah, yeah. With this person,
Okay.
yes.
Yes, with this person. Can you take that and switch it to the word student?
Hmm.
Okay, what did he teach you about yourself, other people? Now, what's fascinating is that I think we've all heard the term red flags, right? Like you see the red flags in somebody, that person
Yes.
presents red flags. Okay,
Right.
so let's say that this person, your relationship with this person, gave you the ability to see red flags in another person.
Right.
Now, if you walked into other relationships or other circumstances and you didn't see those red flags, or you did see them but you ignored them, you didn't become the student
Hmm.
because the word student has to do with learning.
Right.
And if you're not able to be the student and understand that, then you turn into the victim.
Hmm.
Do you see that?
Yes.
So
Yes.
you remain the victim. So if you're not able to alchemize that circumstance and see the grains of sand or the gold that comes out of it, it's interesting to say that this person in their own way did you a favor, Stephanie.
Oh, yes. Yes. Yeah.
Okay.
I agree with that. As hard as it was, because as I told you, we were together 16 years. And yeah, he did me a favor. Yes, definitely. Because I was already taking care of my father and now my mother, and I would have been taking care of him because he had his health issues. Yes.
But it's interesting because I think this lesson that he gave you is going to apply into your future. So
Okay.
whatever relationships you walk into, whatever sort of whether they're romantic or personal or professional, whatever relationships you walk into, there's an ability to see that.
Right.
Now I've been through circumstances where they've been hellacious, like I said. I had to go through that experience to learn. So this is that idea that we never will be able to find wisdom in our life without going through experience.
Right. Right. Okay.
This is like I'm a big fan of the word fuckaroo. Okay, fuckaroo, and sometimes fuckaroo, like it's just son of a bitch. It's we're gonna
Yeah.
have to go through the mud to come
Yeah.
out and wash ourselves off.
I
Okay,
understand.
so I think another reason why this is so important is because I am not a person that buys into the idea, and I hate this phrase, everything happens for a reason.
Right.
I hate that phrase. I hate it. I hate it because not everything happens for a reason. You cannot tell me that a 3-year-old child dying from leukemia happens for a reason. I think
Right.
that there are really awful things that happen in this world because there's a sense of just randomness, random chance, random circumstance that happens. when we lean too heavily into that idea that everything happens for a reason, when we have tragedy befall us and we have really awful things befall us, when people neglect us, abandon us, betray us, we can turn that around and go, why was it my fault? I mean, how
Mhm.
many times have people had rough patches in their life and said something to the effect of, I must be paying for something I did in a past life?
Right.
You know, that's remaining in that victim mentality. We are all going to have rough patches. We are all going to have people that don't give us their love back in the way that we gave them. Do you
Mhm.
know? That's important. So in your future, because I do think, Stephanie, that you're going to grow quite old, you're going to have
Mhm.
opportunities to use that wisdom that you've gained. Make sure that
Right.
you take that wisdom, actually apply it, so you
Mhm.
become the student. But this is important because I do think that there are a lot of people in this world, especially on this call, who might have hope for relationships in the future, that might have bad relationships in their past, but they
Right.
cannot let those bad relationships teach them negative things about themselves. You know,
Mhm.
when I was talking to Deb, and there are men in her world who disappoint her. Okay,
Yeah.
she can't have that. And you, Stephanie, look at you. You know, like there was a man
Mhm.
in your life that disappointed you. The both of you
Mhm.
could have taken those relationships and learned from them in the improper way. Learn from them and maintain these stories about yourself that you weren't worthy, that you weren't beautiful. And I
Mhm.
do want to commend both of you because I think the both of you have been through rough patches in your life, rough stories in your life, and you somehow yet maintain the ability to shine. You're
Thank you.
alchemists. That's
Mhm.
alchemy. That is something that we all have to do. And I really want you to do that. Okay. Now, here's the next thing because I got somebody else coming in. Oh man. Okay.
Can I just ask, is he feeling guilty? Is that why he keeps on trying to get me messages?
That's the that's going to be it.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
absolutely going to be it. This is
Yeah.
so I'm going to talk to you about this because I call this the Die Laugh Love podcast. I like
Mhm.
to have fun. I like to bring humor. I want to laugh. Do
Mhm.
you know how
Right.
disappointed I was when I was like, oh man, I got to talk about tragedy. I got to talk about heartache. I wasn't
Mhm.
disappointed, but I was like, I want to have fun with people. I want to laugh with people, but I have to honor the sacred duty of doing this work where, you know, Deb and wanting to be the nurse, right? The sorry I told you this stuff about yourself at a very young age. Stephanie, the Elvis guy, you know, all of that. When people pass away, they go through a life review.
Right.
They look at the things that they did and they didn't do to people. They learn from it. They see it from a higher perspective, and then they stand in a place of sorrow.
Right.
That's what happens. So
Okay.
here he keeps he's trying to get you. And now look at what we've just shared here. You know, the negative part of this story with you and him. You know, there's a silver lining to it.
Mhm.
There's a silver lining. You've got education. You got wisdom. You certainly can't blame yourself. You certainly can't blame yourself.
No.
All right.
No. No.
So the next person who wants to come in, thank you,
Thank you.
Stephanie. I'm
Oh,
going. Thank you, Sue. Yes, these ladies rock. They absolutely do. They do. Thank you for that. All right. Oh, okay. So the next person, I want to talk to anybody who's like connected to Maine or had relatives in Maine because I'm hearing the word Maine. And now I'm based out of Vermont and New Hampshire, but here's a Maine thing. Um, I don't, this is what this woman is showing me. And remember, these are symbols. I see a ruler like smacking a hand. I don't know if this person was a teacher and they had a ruler, but there's like a ruler smacking the hand. Anybody in Maine, anybody had a teacher, anybody who had somebody awful doing something to them, like hurting them, getting smacked, getting spanked, connected to Maine, a teacher, anybody like that. Um, what I just heard is you and your sisters, you might have had sisters. You might have had sisters. This is somebody who I'm hearing. I'm sorry I did this to you and your sisters. So anybody here have sisters? Anybody here have again the idea of a ruler coming down over the knuckles? This is old school stuff. You might have had a teacher that was rough, or you might have had a mother or grandmother who used like a stick or a yardstick or a ruler to like harm you. Anybody here have something like that?
I got a wooden spoon on my butt.
Hi, Kathy. A wooden spoon on your butt. Do you have sisters?
Yeah,
Okay. Do you have connection to Maine at all?
camping there with my mom, and I still do it to this day, but yeah.
There's a connection to Maine. Okay. The wooden spoon on your butt. Okay. Can I ask you, was it too much?
Yeah,
Like, and what I mean by that is like I was spanked as a kid. It was like last resort. It never happened a lot. It was just like the last resort sort of thing. I can remember the handful of times that it happened, but this feels like it was like at the drop of a shoe. Like
right.
like just at the drop of a shoe. It was unnecessary.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Here's something else. Can I ask, do you have an older sister, Kathy?
I do.
All right. Did she develop self-destructive behavior like drinking too much? Anything to that degree?
I have an older sister who drinks too much.
Okay. There is an apology here that to the degree of which I really can't say. Like this is an incredible apology for the smacking, the spanking, the wooden thing spanking you. Um, for all of that, I want to praise you, Kathy, for turning into somebody. You're getting what I'm talking about when it comes to the idea of alchemy, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like transforming the crap and
It
turning it into gold. Okay.
right. Yeah. It made me realize what I didn't want to do when I had children.
Because you became a person who didn't hit, right?
Yeah.
Okay, so there's that praise. Now, here's the apology. I'm sorry about what I did to you and your sisters. Now, if this, the word I just heard is neglect. If this person neglected you, especially the older sister who drinks too much, they passed on. What they now see is the repercussions to their actions. They now see the repercussions to their actions. They are seeing how their behavior affected the well being of their loved ones. This is so vital. We all want to have the loving, caring parents. We all want that. Sometimes we don't get that. Interestingly, here, this was your mom, right?
Yeah.
Okay. Um, would you say, and I know I'm not a mental health provider, I know that you're not a mental health provider, or maybe you are, I don't know. Can you say that there was mental health issues in her? I'm hearing the word bipolar.
I feel like, well, I didn't know that term then, but I feel like that could be a possibility.
Okay. The other thing I want to talk to you about is I believe that to a great degree, you're the keeper of memories. Talk to me about the memories. Do you have the old photos, the old photo albums?
I I have a few photos. I lost everything in a house fire, so I only have a few photos.
But they're sacred to you, right?
Yeah,
Okay. Do you have recipes?
I do have recipes.
I'm tasting maple syrup. Do you have any recipes connected to maple syrup at all?
Um, Not that I can think of. Oh yes, homemade baked beans.
Okay, and they would put maple syrup in that?
Yes. Yes.
Okay. Do me a favor here because this is sort of vital in terms of they want you to make this old recipe with the baked beans. Okay. They want you to make this old recipe. Do you like baked beans?
Love them.
Okay. Has it been a while since you've made them?
Yes.
Try to make them. This is interesting. I've never made them before. Is this a whole day process?
Yeah, it takes a while. Yeah. You have to soak them overnight and then you have to boil. It does take a long time.
Okay. Please consider making them next Sunday, having a Sunday dinner.
Yep.
Do, okay. Oh man. Okay. 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 Something about Please do your best to have a Sunday dinner, making up for lost time. Do you have sons?
I have a son, yes.
Have a son. Okay. Is there any chance of him moving away?
He's been thinking about moving away.
He has been. Okay. Here's a thing that I have for you. Have a Sunday dinner with your son, with any family members before he moves away or before you can't have him like nearby, close by anymore. Okay.
Mhm.
Uh, you know how like this older sister who drinks too much?
Yep.
Okay. I'm sure there's several different reasons as to why this has happened. You know, it could be alcoholism in the family, it could be a whole lot of different reasons. But I'm telling you what, this woman coming through to you is taking responsibility for her behavior. Like I contributed to it. Like I contributed to it. So, to
Hmm.
whatever degree you were abused or neglected or anything to that degree, she is taking accountability for this. She's taking accountability for this. She also wants to praise you for not being a person who abuses or spanks or hurts because you could have taken this son. And if you had done that to him, you could have given him all of those demons that your sister has, the excessive self-destruction, you know, the addictions, all of that. I I want to praise you also, Kathy, because you're a person who didn't take this story and use it as an excuse to hurt other people. There's a lot of people who do get abused and decide to pass it on, but what you've done is you've somehow broken the cycle, okay? You've somehow broken the cycle of that. And that's huge. That is huge. That is, and here's why, because when you pass away, and you're in the place where your mother is and you're looking at your family, you're going to be able to benefit from all the positive things that you did. I showed them how to work hard. I showed them how to take care of themselves, you know, all of that. But you won't have to stand in a place of feeling responsible for it. You won't have to stand in a place of feeling responsible that you contributed to their pain or their heartache. Okay. That's enormous. That's enormous. So I want to ask you, and I'm not sure you are, and this is the reason why I'm asking you this. Are you proud of yourself?
I am proud of myself. I'm a drug and
You
alcohol counselor.
you better be proud of yourself. You better be proud of yourself, what you've made of your family and how you didn't pass on that pain. Okay, so that's important. Now, recent tragedies in your family, recent tragedies in your family. I'm getting this. I'm apologizing for the pain and turmoil that you guys have been dealing with. I've been apologizing as a collective. It just feels like I just see people falling to their knees like you've been suffering. Has there been stuff recently in your life that has caused you to almost give up hope?
Um, my granddaughters had some problems that were pretty severe.
Severe? So
Hmm.
recently?
Yeah.
Okay. This idea of alchemy, transforming. Okay. What did we all learn from that? You know, we weren't the victim of it. What are we learning from it? What can she possibly learn from it? If there's anything at all to be able to learn from it, it's vital that you kind of stand in that place as the wise woman, you know, the wise woman, and show people that it's not, and this is the phrase, it's not what it took from us, it's what it gave us. It's not what it took from us, it's what it gave us. So perhaps sometimes we can deal with tragedies in our lives, calamities, turmoil in our life in a way that brings people together, that shows the value of a family unit, that gives the opportunity to come together. Okay.
Hmm.
I want you to, I really want you to make the baked beans. Okay. And
Hmm.
if you can, please have a Sunday dinner. All right. More often than just once a month or like once a season, try to have a Sunday dinner. I just heard baked chicken. Make a baked chicken if you could. Make a, chicken dinner, Sunday dinner, things like that. Try to
Mhm.
get people in. I think collectively we're all sort of inundated with media. We're all distracted by work. There's a lot, Deb, from the 50s and 60s, from an older time in America that's good to be rid of, misogyny and racism and, homophobia and all that stuff. But there's a lot of things from a kind of classical family unit where we can get together and eat as a collective, whether that's our chosen family, whether that's our family itself. So I want you to please have more Sunday dinner. Now, Kathy, that's not just for you, that's for everybody here to get together with our loved ones as often as possible because we're only here for a short amount of time. We're only
Mhm.
here for a short amount of time. Kathy, I'm also seeing pancakes. Make pancakes. Does that granddaughter come over, spend nights? Does she ever spend nights with you?
She used to when she was a little bit younger, and I would make pancakes um from scratch actually.
Okay. Is that possible for her to come over at all? Could you invite her for a sleepover?
Yeah, that's possible.
Okay. Do that for her because it feels like there are people that should be there for her that are not. Do you get that? And like you would be
Yeah.
one of those people that could be there for her. So somebody in her life that should be there for her is not. Okay, hold on 1 second. We started with Deb, who was raised by a grandmother, and now I'm with Kathy, who does sleepovers with a granddaughter. But I just said that there are people in her life that should be there for her that were not. Okay, that is full circle if I've ever seen it. So I want you to do what you can, please, to have a sleepover, watch some garbage TV, try to talk to
Mhm.
her like not like a grandmother, but somebody that she can like a safe port in a storm, if you would please, a safe port in a storm. Here's something else that I want to ask you to do for yourself. I know that the burdens that you're carrying as a grandmother, as a mother, as a drug and alcohol counselor are great, but I want you to get yourself a massage, please. I'm being drawn to a bunch of tension in your shoulders. Okay.
Mhm.
Drawn to a bunch of tension in your shoulders, like where you carry all your stress, where you carry all your tension. The other thing too, if you have any sort of physical ailments that are consistent, like it's difficult to get rid of them, I'm getting cold therapy. So I don't know if a cold bath or ice pack or something like that for you would be good, but I think cold therapy would be really good. Okay.
Mhm.
All right. Man, okay. Funny thing. Kathy, you pray to angels. Do you know this?
All the time.
Okay. I'm here to tell you that they hear you. Here's an interesting thing about how angels or these higher beings interact with us. It's very difficult for them to do anything in our life if we don't want to do it for ourselves. And this is what I mean. I think that you're praying for people who need to make their own choices and their own decisions. I think that you're praying for people who need to make their own choices and their own decisions to better their own life. They might not have the capacity, they might not believe they deserve it. What I'm trying to talk to you about here is the idea of free will. Those higher beings, those angels, they can do very little in our life unless we give them permission to do so. And that's one of the mechanics of prayer. This is why I'm a big fan of prayer, to pray for ourselves, to ask for our bullshit to be dismantled. Because the mechanics of prayer work like this, and this is important for everybody to hear. If you take two sick people, people that have an illness of some sort, all things being equal, one person does not pray for health, but the other person does pray for health, This one person who prays for health is participating in that. They're participating in that. They are going to participate to whatever degree to increasing their health. They're going to have an inclination, at least a grain of hope, that health is possible. But I do believe in the act of prayer, we are giving spirit permission to get around our free will. I want to tell you a story and what I mean by this. Okay, so I am tattooed with roses. Okay. And I have a relationship to the spirit that people would know of as Mary. And anybody who has a Christian or Catholic background, I'm not going to offend you here when I'm going to tell you that Mary is something a little bit bigger than the Mary that we know of her as. So, the Mary of the Catholic Church, when we look at a hooded woman, what we're actually looking at is modernized, Christianized goddess worship. Okay. So, well before Christianity, there was the idea of worshiping the mother goddess, this mother energy. This is one of those angelic figures that are in our life. From a historical perspective, the hooded woman and the child, for 3,000 years before the birth of Christ, the hooded woman and the child was the Egyptian goddess Isis. Her child was Horus. I bring this up for a reason because I am surrounded by roses. I am tattooed with roses because I'm highly aligned to that goddess energy. I had a conversation with her one time, and this is a conversation that everybody needs to hear. I have seen manifestations, I have seen miracles. I know that that energy is real and actual. And the conversation that I had with her went like this: how can I, or any other human, believe in a higher power when a man like Vladimir Putin exists? When Vladimir Putin came into power, he pushed a button and he killed about 30,000 people in a village and a town. So there are some Americans out there who think Vladimir Putin is a good guy. I don't know what kind of goddamn Kool-Aid they're drinking, but I'm going to tell you what, Vladimir Putin is not a good guy. Okay. With that being said, he's not the only person in the history of humanity who's pushed buttons and indiscriminately killed thousands of people out of whack. We have Stalin, we have Hitler, we have Mussolini, we have all sorts of figures throughout history who have done this. How can we believe in a higher power if there are men like that? And I mentioned Vladimir Putin specifically to this deity, to this angel. I got an answer from her. It came in the form of one sentence, and the answer went like this: I can't do anything about him because he is stuck in his story. I can't do anything about him because he is stuck in his story. And I had to sit with that and I had to peel it apart. And then with that one sentence, she explained to me free will. Now, Vladimir Putin is a guy who is born into a certain culture, born into a certain time. He was a KGB agent. For people that don't know this part of the war in Ukraine, he's actually on a religious war. I don't think the guy's ever going to give up. And here's why. Here's why. In 1812, there was a Russian czar. That Russian czar, the guy that Vladimir Putin emulates, stood on the river in Kiev, Ukraine, and declared, "This is Mother Russia." The term Mother Russia, I think everybody has heard that term, Mother Russia. It came from 1812. Vladimir Putin is not only on a resource war, he is on a religious war. Now, he is a man who believes the ends justify the means. He believes that it's worth killing all of these people, his own citizens, to get Ukraine back, to bring Mother Russia back. The great spirits of this world can't do anything about him. And I think that any of us that have any sort of religious training would have been taught about free will. Humans have free will. Humans can choose to believe stories about themselves. We can. And I'm going to ask you to continue to pray, Kathy, for your people, to continue to pray to angels for your people. But I'm also going to say to you that if people are so determined to entrench themselves in these stories, into these belief systems, that it's going to be very difficult for these great deities or spirits to do anything about them. We can be so caught up in our own stories, we can be so caught up in what's blinding us that we can have ancestors, we can have our dead, we can have these angels, we can have them all around us, but they can watch us be so entrenched in these stories that we can't do anything about it. They can't do anything about it. So I think for anybody here who would like to get past some pain and trauma in their life, you're welcome, Stephanie. Thank you for that. For anybody who wants to get past these stories that are in them, the pain, the trauma, the turmoil, if you do want to pray, I say pray for yourself. Ask for those things that you hold to be let go. If you were abused by parents or abused by exes, abandoned, betrayed by anybody that should have loved you, and that helped you develop a story that's unhealthy, if that helped you develop a story in your heart that shouldn't be there, you can ask for that to be dismantled. And then a little bit, after a little bit, after a little bit, it can break up. And that's how spirit can help us. So it's very simple. Light a candle. I'm a big fan of lighting tea candles and letting them go out, like letting them burn out. Light a candle and pray to any higher energy that you call on, a Christian angel, a Greek god, whatever sort of higher power that you might feel called to, whatever story that might help. Pray to an ancestor, pray to one of your beloved dead. Ask them, give them permission to help deconstruct the things in your mind that no longer serve a higher purpose. That's going to be extremely powerful. Now, here's something that's interesting. Spirit can't do anything to get past our free will, but sometimes spirit can do something in our life that would make us see things through a different light. So here's the thing: they can't do anything about our free will. That's our divine essence. That's ours and ours alone. That's what we have as conscious beings. We can choose to believe these stories. Yet spirit can kind of trip us up down the road. Spirit can make us cross paths with people. There's no greater teacher than another human being, whether that's a great human being or an awful human being. There's no better teacher than another human being. So spirit can sometimes make us cross paths with people, make circumstances happen in our lives, which would help us pull our heads out of our asses. So here's something that you can do, Kathy, okay? Is that you praying for your loved ones, you praying for your people, okay? Praying for the calamity, praying for all of that. Maybe you can pray for something to happen that would help give your people a different perspective, okay? To help give people a different perspective. I want you to think about what you can do, no harm, no calamity, no death, no nothing like that. But what I'm seeing here is, oh man, this is tough. Sometimes people have to get the DWI or the DUI before they'll stop drinking. Do you understand that? There's a reason why I'm saying this. Sometimes people have to get in trouble before they see it within themselves to move themselves out of that story. So I know that those things like a DWI and a DUI and those sorts of things aren't great, but perhaps it's better than what could happen if they were left to their own devices. And I was talking earlier about I'm not a big fan of the expression everything happens for a reason, because I don't believe everything happens for a reason. But I am a big fan of this expression: spirit works in mysterious ways. And sometimes things can happen to us. Sometimes things can happen to our loved ones that, while it seems negative at the time, it ends up being one of our best teachers. So anybody here, anybody that might ever listen to this, I want you to think about the times in your life where you would have had a rough patch or a rough story, and it was awful to go through that, whatever it was, but you were so grateful once you were through it because of what it taught you and what it gave you. I can think of a client now who I remember saying to her specifically, it really sucked going through your divorce, but if you hadn't gone through that divorce, you wouldn't have found out who you were as a person. So sometimes it's the awful things that can teach us who we are. So I want to give everybody that today, the alchemy. You have to do it, though. These things will not happen. These things will not happen by themselves. And I'm going to invite everybody here who would ever hold on to the word victim. And that's not taking the victimhood away, okay? That's not saying that, somebody hurt you, what have you. But I do want you to figure out how to write a different story. If you had a father who abandoned you, if you had a father who abused you, if you had a husband who didn't care for you, if you had so many different experiences over and over and over in your life where somebody mistreated you and you became the victim to their mistreatment, do what you can to figure out what you learn from that. Do what you can to figure out what you learn from that. And that is where, and this is important for everybody to hear, this was probably my biggest lesson of 2024. The word author sits in the word authority. You know how we author a book? Okay. The word author sits in the word authority. They are related. When we write our own story, we become the authority of ourselves. If we let other people write our stories, we give them our authority. We give them our authority. I want you here, everybody, to do what you can to alchemize your story, to figure out how to take a crap and turn it into gold. Do what you can in whatever application that you can in your life. And again, it's not going to be every single one of them, but turn the word victim into student. You have become the author of your own story. You have become the authority of yourself. Okay? So thank you for that. Now, I don't have any other spirits here. Those are the three spirits that are coming through. You got to know that they have an apology for every single person here. Okay? Deb's grandmother apologizing for ever telling her she couldn't do a thing because our loved ones should tell us, shoot for the stars, baby, knock it out of the park. That's what they should do. Okay. And sometimes we don't do that through fear or finances or what have you. Thank you for becoming a person, Deb, who contributes to the betterment of others. Stephanie, thank you for taking the lessons from this Elvis guy and using it to turn your life into something brighter. Okay. And absolutely not becoming bitter because of it. Kathy, Ma's coming through. Sorry that she would have smacked you. Sorry that she would have hurt you. Sorry for what she's done to you and your sisters. Thank you for not being that person who did those things. You're going to be so grateful for that when you pass away. You should be grateful of it for right now, but when you move on to the world of spirit, you're going to be incredibly grateful because you'll see the repercussions of your actions. And your actions were great, so the repercussions are great. I'm going to end this by encouraging everybody to reach out to somebody that they love and let them know that you love them. Okay? For no reason other than to let them know. Figure out how to send a phone call, write a card, send a letter, shoot a text. Let somebody in your life know that you love them because this life is short. I also want to remind everybody to do what you can to get in a little bit of vitamin joy. So here's what I'm going to do. Okay? I'm a big believer in vitamin joy. I'll tell you what, when I walked into today's episode, like walking into like this, okay, I was like, man, why can't I want to have some fun. I want to like joke around. I want to have some fun. But here I am with the heartache and the sorrow and the regret and the pain. That's a big part of what I do. I get it. But I am going to also now go get some joy. Okay. I've got a game night with friends tomorrow. I'm going to go get some joy. I want everybody to seek out joy like it is a vitamin, because if all we have in our life is pain and sorrow and turmoil, that's no way to live our life. And that's how our heart becomes bitter. Kathy, for you, I believe your vitamin joy should be those baked beans next Sunday. Okay. All right. Thank you, everybody, for being here. Thank you for all of this. Next one, Wednesday, March 26th, 7 p.m. Eastern Time. Thank you, everybody, so much for being here. Take care of yourselves, and I will see you next time. Bye.